teamwork, I would have to say, is a big one, because without teamwork, you can't do this with one person. You have to collaborate with your peers, and it may be someone you've been best friends with your whole life, and it may be someone you've just met the other day.
Because what we're doing is really unique, you guys. So what you're going through this process of an inquiry project is fairly groundbreaking in terms of the innovation, rather than just me sitting up here, you take notes, you write a test. Me sitting up there, you take notes, you write a test. Okay, all that prepares you for is how to write a test. That is not how the real world is. You don't walk onto a job site with your notepad and start taking notes. The guy's gonna look at you and go, get a hammer and start nailing. Right? No, but I just gotta take a note on how do you do, is there a test on this? No, in the real world, it is about working in groups. It's about experiencing things. It's about pulling in resources. It's about talking to experts. It's not about math or science or humanities. It's about all of them at the same time. So you're not guinea pigs, because I look at it as the other way around. I look at it as this is the institution of education has been this way for almost 500 years, and it has to change. And if we aren't part of that change, then you're going to fall behind.
So you're going to be creating something visual. Now I've left this nice and general and open because I really want to provide you guys with the creative freedom to express your information how you see fit.
This process. If you are constantly improving your perspective, you're going to blossom and really enrich and extend your understanding. So the first stage, when you're actually researching on the computers, that's one layer. When you're actually out in the field, building those connections, that's a whole other layer. When you're meeting with your stakeholder groups that are asking you questions, that's another layer of you to improve. When you meet with the ministerial board that questions and interviews you, that's a further layer. Each time, you're going to take away more understanding and apply it. That's what we want to see. You represent Alberta's needs, and you represent the passion that we talked about in our opening activity. What is it that you love about Alberta, but want to preserve or balance? That is the goal. The ambassador role. As an ambassador, you sit behind the panel, you are the representative. And so we take on that role. So each minister is going to ask you questions. In order to authentically extend your understanding, you need to know your stuff. And be open to that conversation around, well, I haven't considered that perspective in my proposal, but I have included some data on residential use. Awesome. There it is. Authentic, extension, enriched, improving. That's what I'm assessing.
Obviously wildlife. And then
Sustaining, not ours, but also
sustaining everyone, needs for everyone.
just mostly ours.
To ensure a better future.
Yeah, to ensure a better future.
Because all the priorities kind of tie into that.
Yeah. Even
Their way of life. This means 100% hydrocarbon production occurs when 100% of the landscape is used for hydrocarbon production. To learn more, natural landscape.
Are you guys going on docs and sharing it with each other? Like the whole thing?
They're gonna share.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be all on the same doc. We'll be dotting stuff on the same one?
It'll be live. Yeah.
Oh!
Alright, we have to work on the second question. And we don't need to go on to the thing yet. We don't have to go on to it yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Because then the water quality also.
It'll also go down if they're shipping it.
And so we're trying to base all of our water by the reserves.
Okay. So is your goal to just sustain the reserves that are here now, or create more reserves?
Well, we kind of want to sustain it to where it is.
Okay.
And we're just taking into account the human population is going to increase, so we have to increase a little bit settlement, but not to a crazy extent.
How would you keep the water quality for the cities while still sustaining water quality for the reserves?
Well, there wasn't really too much water around the settlement like Calgary and High River and Okotoks. We just tried to, we didn't really get rid of it or anything. We just added more wetlands outside of that and like not close to settlement. So we didn't take away anything. We just added more to the outside.
Okay, because that's what we really got out of your presentation, is that you really want a better water quality.
And adding more grassland to the forestry isn't going to change the water quality?
Yeah. So then I suppose we would accept their trade-off number 2. So we'd accept your trade-off number 2. Yeah. I think we're good for now with the grasslands. I think we're okay with that number. It's really the wetlands that we need to be focused on for now. Okay, so now we have to agree to accept one of the trade-offs. So we each have to accept one. So we've accepted your guys' trade-off number 1. Now you guys have to accept one of ours.
Yeah, we'll accept trade-off number 2.
Number 2 with the more wetlands?
Yeah.
Well then we each get what we want.
Okay.
Okay. Shake the hands.
Good job.
Attaboy.
Thank you.
We will be listening to your proposal on
Agricultural production.
agricultural production and a land use proposal.
Yes.
You have the floor.
Here to propose a plan to increase the agricultural industry in the South Saskatchewan region. In Alberta, there are about 2 cows per every person, and 3 out of every 100 jobs in Alberta are agricultural jobs. From an economic perspective, there will be enough money to sustain future services for future agricultural production.
And agriculture did go up, which was our original goal, but everything else kind of went down. Greenhouse gases went up.
We had I think the 3 that we got green was water consumption, which actually decreased a bit. Hydrocarbon production increased, and human population increased. So
Was urban development, which also wasn't very hard because they agreed that instead of building out, they're going to build up. That way we aren't taking up so much land. And agriculture, we made a balance with them so that we don't have as much, or so that we both have enough land to use and we don't like cut down on each other. So we didn't have like a ton of conflicts because everybody was trying to go from the environmental side. But
So yeah, I really like that. I love that you say what the current situation is, and then you contrast it. That is such a good opening for a pitch. It was a great presentation. I was really impressed with it.
we need to find that balance between the economy and the environment, where we can still produce and manufacture goods and services, but not to too great of an extent that we are polluting the environment in order to create unhealthy circumstances.
That we see with reducing hydrocarbon production is that oil and gas is a huge part of Alberta's economy as well. Like, outside of anything else, hydrocarbon production is huge. So we're not trying to so much decrease it to the point where it's non-existent, but keep it away from the wetlands that we're trying to protect.
We are here to discuss agricultural land use. Today we propose that right now we are sitting at 64% of this Calgary area's land use is devoted to agriculture, and we want to increase that by 2% to bump us up to 66% agriculture. Talked to some of the other groups and we've negotiated so everyone gets what they want, including us.
We're here to have you hop on board and help us preserve land. What is the big deal, you may ask? As stated on www.planetfriendly.net, it says the sky is still blue and water is still drinkable. The point is we need to act right now. We watched in 1884 to 1984 the biotic carbon in natural landscapes decrease and the greenhouse gases increase. This had a very negative impact on the environment by decreasing the water quality. Let's start off with our trade-offs that were positive. Wildlife conservation, Aboriginal, tourism, agriculture, and the fish hatchery. First of all, we made an agreement with agriculture and we received a total of 10% of the land. That is where wildlife conservation comes in. We share 4% of the land with them used for wetlands to accommodate the fisheries. In conclusion, we want to protect, maintain, and where feasible, restore ecosystems. Overall, our main goal is to improve our environment and the quality of water, soil, and air. We thank you for your time.
Our guest panel, Mr. Colin Gaynor, he works with the town of Okotoks. He's going to provide some feedbacks overall on the presentations, and then he's going to let you know, based on his experience and his expertise, what he believes to be the best plan to put Alberta a step ahead for the next 30 years. So if we could please welcome Mr. Colin Gaynor.
First off, great job everybody. It's really challenging to do these kinds of oral presentations, especially when you have somebody unknown in the group and not sure what they're thinking. The other thing, knowing your subject area, I think everybody did really well in trying to convey what their specific focus was in terms of what stakeholder group they were coming from. What was really good to see too, especially from a number of the groups, was on highlighting specifically how you guys work together with your other groups, how you can looked at what their concerns were, what your main concerns were, and how you work to try and balance those out, because that's really the key when you do a large plan like this that has a multitude of stakeholders, is how do you balance everybody together. So great job everybody.
Excellent, thank you very much. One more last round of applause for Mr. Gaynor, please. Thank you so much.
Or like a spring.
Wiggly rock.
We have a bucket full of little bugs. Then we take this other incredibly expensive technical piece of equipment.
Wow, 5,000.
And we are going to take the little buggies, suck them out of there, and put them into this high tech going in the water, stirring up rocks, looking for the bugs and everything. Because the bugs, if you pick up a rock here, you're going to find they're screwed all over the place. We want to get them caught in the net. Over here, Jake, I want to just like jump in. Jump up.
I'm pretty sure I got one. Oh no, that's not it. That's a stick. I can't see from where to go. Right there. Why'd you dump a ball out? Right there. Vote in which group? It's right there.
So, good morning guys. Glad to have you here with us today. I will be doing your tour. As I told the other group, waste management is just becoming a science. To work with all your friends and residents in this MD to reduce what's going to landfill. This container will take anything that you would eat to separate what we call boxboard and corrugated cardboard.
What are some of the lasting impressions that you saw today?
It was really good getting information on the background of what all these different stakeholder groups, their focus and what they needed to consider. Certainly some of the groups are really good at conveying exactly the kinds of key things that these regional plans should cover. There was some good interaction with the audience in a number of groups, but also being really clear on what the objectives and what the criteria that's used into developing the actual plan is. I've seen these kinds of regional projects and looking at regional planning matters in university projects, but certainly this grade level, it's encouraging to see.
Can you share with us some of your observations from today?
a group of really engaged kids that it seemed as if they really bought into the project and dedicated a lot of time and thought. I mean, there's no downside to doing what the kids need or did today. Absolutely no downside. I mean, I don't see how anybody could say it's a bad thing to get up in front of people and be able to speak and present an argument. And they did a great job.
It was a tangent from this project that I wasn't anticipating. The power of having them negotiate with other groups. I mean, that was idea to get sort of that balance of perspectives, but I didn't think it would be as powerful. It was a really. I was saying to Jamie, I said, you know, that is one of the powers of this. I said, I know they're going to rock their science PAT because the level of the connections that they were making, but where I wanted them to be.
What were your overall impressions at the Sheep River?
Well, we saw an amazing experience. We had 80 grade 9 students head down to the Sheep River and begin to do some aquatic studies on the river shore, comparing water from the sheep as well as from the water treatment plant on the other side of the gravel bar. What was the most amazing thing was the level of engagement of these kids was phenomenal. At any given time, you would have 80 to 100% of the kids were bang on doing the work, excited about it. And especially even when you got to the point where you started to probe them with a few questions here and there, just to test to see how much they were taking in. It was pretty amazing to see what the staff. The staff was phenomenal. They worked so hard to get these kids excited about it. They had, you could tell the admin was fully behind them. They had a great program going down there. There were lots of pre-work going in, and we had some pretty good structure, but I've never been down before with 80 kids before, and to see the level of organization that the staff had was phenomenal. And so combined with the kids' natural curiosity came out, and I was well, it's really important. We got to empower kids to question the world around them, and one of the things is that we wanted to train these kids to be basically citizen scientists.
So how do you like learning with inquiry-based projects versus testing?
I like learning with inquiry-based projects because it gives me the opportunity to show my understanding, knowledge, and application without being under a lot of pressure and without sitting there writing a test that gives me one opportunity. Whereas when I do a project, I have more time to kind of process and think about what I'm actually going to do. I think doing projects will help me in the future because when I want to have an occupation, I'm not going to sit there doing tests for it. I'm going to have to work on projects, and that's going to be my way of completing my work rather than sitting and taking a test.
How do you see the environment connect to your world?
Well, when we look at, mainly because we're doing fisheries right now and trying to protect that habitat, when we look at what's happened with the development of fisheries in our area and the fish population and its decline due to overfishing, those are actual physical events that you can see and chart down and try and affect. So there's an actual cause and effect outside of just we've learned about this. There's actual things going on in the world that connect to it.
Now the learning process itself, do you find that a little bit different?
Yes. The way they connected everything together, I think, was actually a neat idea and a good way of explaining how everything doesn't just work in separate subjects. It actually works as a worldview.
Everything is put together, not just separate things.
Yeah, of our environment. It's a huge deal to us. It matters more than pretty much anything we've done this year to be able to look at the environmental implications of what we're learning. So, yeah, I think it definitely matters to what's going on right now.
Does a project like this give you any freedom during the learning process?
Yeah, it gave us a lot of freedom, being able to have hours and hours upon end just to play with our tools and figure out what we wanted to do, walk around, talk to everybody, see what they wanted. We had a lot of freedom, and I thought that was pretty cool because usually we're just stuck in our classrooms doing everything. We're not allowed to go in between classes or anything, but the project gave us a little bit more freedom, so we were able to walk around, talk to everybody, and do what we wanted.
How did your teachers support you?
They supported us very well. They stick with us throughout the entire project. They were always there if we needed help or anything, and overall I feel that they did a pretty good job of structuring the project and giving it some life and fun to it.
My teachers were a big support because we got to go in and propose our land use project more than once. And the first time we went in, they told us that we had a solid ideas, and that if we really pulled ourselves together and kind of had more structure to our ideas, then we would pull ahead of most of the other groups. And they were always there for us if we needed anything, and to ask them questions, they would answer for us.
Good. And how did you feel this project? Do you feel this was a science project?
I feel like this is more of a social studies project, just because of the economic part of it, I guess you could say. I felt it more as it was an all-around project. It incorporated things from science, math, and humanities as well as social studies, since, you know, the reflection part, there was math part with graphing and all the percentages, how we split up the land. Science part was actually looking at the biological indicators and factors that would affect the land, while social studies was just doing the things with the land and planning out how it's going to look in the future.
So did you like incorporating all the different subjects versus just doing a project on each subject?
I think it's a lot more smooth with incorporating all the courses we're taking, because if we just focus on one course, we'd have to do it again over, except in a different point of view, because of the science point of view and the humanities point of view might be completely different.
So why do you think it's so relevant that we do this project in Okotoks?
I think it's relevant that we do this project in Okotoks because of all the growth and development that's going on currently. There are plenty more businesses being built, and that could be harmful to our ecosystem, so it's very relevant that we're actually doing the project in Okotoks.
What was the purpose of the Alberta Tomorrow project, do you think? Why were we learning that?
I think that the purpose of the Alberta Tomorrow project was to get a better understanding of current events going on in Alberta and what the actions we do today and how they're going to influence our lifestyles tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow, maybe in several years, but...
At the end of the project, I see the world very differently in a sense that everything wasn't just here, that someone developed all the land that we have. Someone decided to put a giant building across the street. Someone decided to take away a natural landscape. And if I ever get the opportunity to work on a job like this, I'm definitely going to use all the skills I learned here and apply them.